Imagine being locked inside a tiny 2 by 2 meter cell for 27 years. The world forgets you. Your children grow up without you. You are labeled a terrorist, an enemy of the state. But when those prison gates finally open, you don't walk out bitter. You don't walk out broken. You walk out as a symbol of forgiveness, of freedom, and of a legacy that would shape the course of humanity. This is not a myth. This is not fiction. This is the real story of a man who turned chains into a crown. His name was Nelson Mandela. Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela was born in 1918 in a small South African village called Mvizo. No electricity, no modern schools, no luxury. But from a young age, Mandela carried a spark, a fire not yet lit, but waiting. He was born into tribal royalty, but he rejected comfort. He chose the path of the struggle. He studied law, walked the streets of Johannesburg, and witnessed the brutality of apartheid, a system where your skin determined your rights, and your life was worth less if you were black. But Mandela refused to bow. He stood up, he organized, he fought for a South Africa that didn't yet exist. Determined, I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities, he declared in court in 1964. Emphatic. It is an ideal for which I am prepared to die. And the court made its decision, life in prison. He was just 46 years old. He would spend nearly the next 3 decades behind bars, first at Robben Island. His prison cell was barely wide enough to stretch his arms. No bed, just a mat on the floor. He was allowed 1 visitor every 6 months. Letters from family were censored or blocked. He worked, breaking stones in the sun. His eyes were damaged forever by the limestone quarry. But inside that prison, he built an empire of the mind. He read the writings of Tolstoy, Gandhi, Lincoln. He studied his enemies. He practiced patience like a monk, and he led, even in chains. He once said, "It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest ones." Mandela was learning the art of timeless leadership, the kind that survives stone walls. February 11, 1990. Nelson Mandela walks out of prison. Millions are watching. His clenched fist raised in quiet triumph, proudly. But no one knew what he would say. Pensive. Would he call for revenge? Questioning. Instead, he calls for peace. Firmly. He embraces his jailers. Gently. He invites his enemies to negotiate. Determinedly. He pushes for democracy, not domination. Emphatically. 4 years later, in 1994, Nelson Mandela becomes the first black president of South Africa. Triumphantly. He serves 1 term, not because he's weak, assertively, but because he understands power is not something to be held thoughtfully. It's something to be passed on, wisely. Mandela didn't just change South Africa. Emphatic. He changed the blueprint for how a person can turn pain into purpose. Inspiring. He showed us, strong, that you can lose decades and still rise. Solemn, that forgiveness is stronger than fear. Powerful, that true leaders don't rule with fists, they lead with vision. Reflective, I am not a saint, he once said, unless you think of a saint as a sinner who keeps on trying. Thoughtful, Mandela didn't pretend to be perfect. Firm, he was just relentlessly committed to becoming better. Solemn, and in a world full of division, Mandela built bridges. Calm, in a time of war, he chose reconciliation. Quietly, when others shouted, he listened. Compassionately, when others hated, he healed. You may not be a president, you may not wear a suit or stand in front of a crowd, but you have chains too. Chains of doubt, chains of failure, chains of fear. Mandela's story isn't just history, it's a mirror. What's holding you back? What prison have you built in your own mind? Because Mandela teaches us this: you are not what happens to you, you are what you do next. Your past may be your scar, but it doesn't have to be your story. They tried to bury him, but they didn't realize he was a seed. They took away his freedom, but he gave the world something greater: hope, unity, legacy. Nelson Mandela died in 2013, but his story is still alive, not in history books, but in people who refuse to give up. So now the question is no longer about Mandela. The question is you. What will you do with your pain? Will you carry it like a burden, or use it as your fire? Will you choose bitterness, or build a legacy that lasts beyond your name? Because greatness is not born in palaces, it is forged in prisons. Legacy is not what you leave behind, it's what you ignite today. This is Ignite Legacy.